Deepa, did you hear about the upcoming movie about the Me Too movement?
No, Nivya, I haven't. Tell me something about it. I'm really interested to know.
How come you only know about horrendous comedy movies? Anyway, Bombshell is being directed by Jay Roach. It's due for release this December.
What exactly is this Me Too movement?
You don't know what I just talked about, do you?
Just tell me.
Me Too is a movement against sexual harassment and sexual assault. This movement was supported by women from all around the world.
Oh, interesting. How come I have never heard about it?
Do you watch the news or read the newspaper?
No.
That's why.
Welcome to the session. Are you a fan of biopics? Did you find the conversation to be interesting? I'm sure many of you have a naive friend like Deepa. Now, can you guess what we are going to learn in this session? We're going to learn about the passive voice. I hope you all understood the concept of the active voice in the last session. We discussed various example sentences in both the active and the passive voices. We're going to look at the passive voice in detail in this session. Do you remember the conversation between Nivya and Deepa? Remember what Nivya said about the new movie? She said, Bombshell is being directed by Jay Roach. Most of the sentences in English follow a basic structure: subject, verb, and object. Let me quickly remind you what a subject, verb, and object are. The subject of a sentence is the person, place, thing, or idea that the sentence is about. The verb is the action that is performed. The object is the person or thing that receives the action of the verb. What do you think is the structure of a sentence in the passive voice? Let's look at the sentence from the interaction again. This is a sentence in the passive voice. It has a noun in the subject position followed by a verb and a noun in the object position. Subject plus form of the be verb, past participle of the verb plus object. In this sentence, the thing or the person bombshell is in the subject position and it receives the action. To understand this better, we need to look at the sentence first in the active voice and then in the passive voice. Jay Roach is directing Bombshell. Bombshell is being directed by Jay Roach. Notice how the focus shifted from Jay Roach to Bombshell when we converted this sentence into the passive voice. In the active voice, we were telling who directed the movie, whereas in the passive voice, we are telling which movie is being directed. The passive voice is used to turn the focus onto the person or thing that receives the action rather than the person or thing that performs the action. In simple words, in passive voice sentences, the person or thing that receives the action is in the subject position. Let's look at another example from the interaction. Nivya told Deepa this movement was supported by women from all around the world. This sentence is in the passive voice. Look at the sentence in the active voice. Women from all around the world supported this movement. How can you identify a sentence in the passive voice? You need to see whether the noun in the subject position performs the action or receives the action. In this example, when you look at the sentence in the passive voice, the noun in the subject position is this movement, and it does not perform but only receives the action. In the active voice sentence, the noun in the subject position is women from all around the world, and it is the doer of the action. Let's look at a few more examples. The door was opened by Rahul. Rahul opened the door. In the passive voice sentence, the door is in the subject position and the focus is on the door and not on who opened it. The same sentence in the active voice has Rahul as the subject and the focus is on who opened the door rather than what was opened. Look at another example now. The show was inaugurated by the actor. The actor inaugurated the show. In the sentence, in the passive voice, the show is in the subject position and it receives the action, that is, inaugurated. The active voice sentence, however, has the actor in the subject position and the actor is the doer of the action of inauguration here. Now let's come back to the structure of the sentences in the passive voice. Look at this example. Ramesh's father taught Ravi. This sentence is in the active voice. Look at this sentence in the passive voice now. Ravi was taught by Ramesh's father. Let's look at the structure of the sentence in the passive voice. Now Ravi is in the subject position followed by the be verb was, combined with the past participle taught. And lastly, we have the noun Ramesh's father in the object position. The preposition by is used before adding the details of the person or thing in the object position. It is important to understand what the be verb and past participle are so that you can understand the structure of a sentence in the passive voice. Let me quickly explain what the be verb and the past participle are. The be verb shows a state of being. The be verbs can take any of the following 8 forms: be, am, are, is, was, were, been, and being. Look at these examples. I am an engineer. She is tired. You are intelligent. In these sentences, the be verb forms are am, is, and are. Now, what is the past participle of a verb? The past participle of a verb is the form of a verb that usually ends in ed. For example, looked, cooked, rained. They can also end with en, t, d, and n. Some examples are fallen, dreamt, hoped, and known. Let's look at this example. See how the same idea is expressed differently in the active voice and passive voice sentences. Sakshi read a book. A book was read by Sakshi. Let's examine the structure of this passive voice sentence. A book is in the subject position followed by was read, which is the be verb plus the past participle, and the noun in the object position. When should you use the passive voice? It is preferable to use the active voice in most cases as it doesn't leave any questions unanswered. The passive voice can sometimes be vague. On the other hand, if you wish to focus more on who receives the action or on the action itself rather than who or what performed the action, it is a good idea to use the passive voice. Let me give you an example from the session on the active voice. Look at this sentence. The Parliament passed the National Medical Commission Bill in 2019. The National Medical Commission Bill was passed in 2019 by the Parliament. If you want to focus more on who passed the bill, use the active voice. At the same time, if your focus is on the bill, then use the passive voice. We hope you learned quite a lot about the passive voice in this session. See you in another webisode. Until then, happy learning.